Where do taxi drivers go when they need to buy a taxi? Well, the Taxi Centre have supplied cars to the trade for over 20 years, and they stock a huge range of motors from the world's leading manufacturers: Skoda, Kia, Toyota, Mercedes, Nissan, Ford, Hyundai, you name it. They've got saloons, MPVs, estates, minibuses, prestige cars, the lot, all under one roof, ready for immediate collection or free delivery anywhere on the mainland UK. With taxi trade exclusive discounts, flexible finance options and no hidden fees. They even throw in registration and 12 months road tax. So if you're a taxi driver who needs a new or used taxi, where would you go? TheTaxiCentre.com. Trade only.
The Go Radio Football Show with the Taxi Centre. Listen anytime, wherever you get your podcasts. Call now and voice your opinion. 0808 17 17 700.
Let's go! So 4 days into 2022 and it's a done deal. A happy new year already for 20-year-old Scotland defender Nathan Patterson, who in the last couple of hours swapped Rangers for Everton in a record-breaking transfer. Whether the package totals 14 million or 16 million, depending on which media outlet you are monitoring, with a down payment of 10 or 12, it certainly outstrips the £9 million that Tottenham paid Rangers 13 years ago. It was, can you believe that, for Alan Hutton. So he's the either a 14 or 16 million pound man with all the add-ons calculated. Stephen Craigan, the deal is done. We've been talking about it for ages and it's gone through.
Well, you can't help but think it's a terrific deal, first of all, for Rangers. I think it's a deal that suits both parties, because trying to dislodge James Tavernier as the right back at Rangers may have taken Nathan Patterson another year or 18 months. I think that's mainly due to the form and the assists and the goals and the influence that James Tavernier has on the team. Does he have a better chance of going to Everton and dislodging Seamus Coleman? I think he does. So he wins because he gets a chance to play in the Premier League. Rangers win because they get a big fee and Nathan Patterson makes lots of money.
James Tavernier's got a mention already. I wonder if he's going to get another mention. Wonder if he's going to be in your team of the season. So far, we're just 4 days into 2022. You weren't on the show last week. We got a few of the guys to pick their selection of the top players so far. We will find out. We'll find out in the next little while whether James Tavernier could be in it, and who else. One or two surprises maybe from Craigs in the course of the next hour on the Go Radio Football Show with the Taxi Centre. And the other big story today, Nathan Patterson's transfer to Everton has gone through. The other big headline in Scottish football is that the new manager of Kilmarnock is Derek McInnes.
Yeah, you know, having worked with Derek in the last 6 months in the media, I know he was really keen to get back into management. There was many people thought there were opportunities would arrive in England. I think some opportunities he'd spoke to clubs, nothing really floated his boat. And sometimes as a manager, the longer it goes when you're out of work, you know, you're waiting for something to come up that's maybe not going to come up. And Kilmarnock is a club who shouldn't be, first of all, in the Championship. And I think there's great potential to improve Kilmarnock, bring them up this year, come into the Premiership, bring them back to life. And Derek's looked at it and thought it's a project that he can go in there. Listen, Derek's a good manager. I'm just really surprised that no one else has put something in front of him. You know, I think unfortunately at times he was labelled with a team who weren't very entertaining, didn't score a lot of goals. But if you check back in Aberdeen under his stewardship, you know, regularly they were out with the top two, or top, if it was Celtic when Rangers weren't in the league, they scored plenty of goals. You know, they were regular good goal scorers. They kept clean sheets, and maybe at times he was a bit reserved at times, but you know, I think he was unfairly labelled with a manager who doesn't play good football. You know, there's a difference between winning football and good football, and sometimes it's about getting the balance right. But first of all, it's great to see him back in the game. It really is. You know, we shouldn't be having a manager like Derek McInnes who's done well over the years. It's probably a bigger risk for Derek going to Kilmarnock than it is for Kilmarnock taking him on board. But he's went back there to reinvent himself, to bring himself back to life, put him back in front of the eyes of other clubs. But I think he'll do a good job.
Yeah, like you, I think it's really good news for Kilmarnock. I think that is a top quality replacement for Tommy Wright. I think I'm right in saying they're 5 points behind Arbroath at the moment, but they've got a game in hand. Yeah. So theoretically they're not far off it at all. There's plenty opportunity. Tony Docherty will be going in alongside Derek McInnes at Rugby Park, and well, it's a hit the ground running job. It has to be for Killie, because they certainly, from a financial point of view, they want to be bouncing straight back to the top flight.
Yeah, well, they need to be. But the one thing you get, you know, you look at Kilmarnock managers over the years, Billy Bowie backs his managers, Rob. He gives them money to go and invest. I mean, Tommy Wright probably brought in 16, 17 players in the summer. I mean, you bring that number of players, they don't all work. So Derek McInnes no doubt will have ideas in his mind of what he wants, what he needs. Players he's worked with in the past who might think could come and do a good job for him, even just for 6 months to get, or 5 months even just to get Kilmarnock promoted. But it was interesting, you always read social media for the reaction of people, that I think Derek McInnes' record as Aberdeen manager at Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, I don't think he had lost, and if he had it was only once in 7 years. So they're saying if that's anything to go by, Derek McInnes' record at Rugby Park is good, so they should continue on. But do you think Kilmarnock have lost at home to Partick Thistle this year, who are a rival? They lost at home to Wraith Rovers, who are a rival. They lost at home to Inverness, who are a rival, and they lost at home to Arbroath, who are also a rival in the top 5, because it's now 2 leagues, isn't it? It's a top 5 and a bottom 5 effectively pushing for the title. So if he can get their home form right, start winning big games again, then there's no reason why Kilmarnock can't go up. Sometimes a new manager coming in just brings people to life. It takes them out of the comfort zone. You only have to look at Giovanni Van Bronckhorst at Rangers. Okay, they were doing well, but they've seemed to have gone to another level again. Sean Maloney got a reaction of his players, won 2 games out of 2. So there's no doubt Derek will back himself. Derek's an experienced manager who knows how to deal with players, and even just speaking to him over that period that he was out, on different occasions, he started to see things slightly differently. He was doing a lot of reading about how managers work, different theories. He said he was looking at just different ways of doing things, and sometimes you do that. When you're involved in football and in a job, you don't get a chance to study other things or look at other things because you're so engrossed in trying to get that next victory or pick that next team. Whereas I think now he's came away from it, he's had a look around, he's visited some clubs, he spoke to people. I think his batteries are recharged, he's fresh and ready to go, and I think that can only be good news for Kilmarnock.
He's been out of work for 9 months, left Aberdeen in March, and probably if you mentioned Kilmarnock to him in March, he wouldn't have ticked his box or floated his boat, or whatever phrase you want to use for it. But time changes things, and from a positive point of view, you do look at this as a big opportunity to get Kilmarnock. They are a big club, they've got potentially a really big support as well. So if he can get the job done, and be it automatic promotion or via the playoffs, get them back into the Premiership, then you would imagine Billy Bowie will back him to make darn sure that the relegation spectre doesn't loom over Rugby Park again. Yeah,
well, he would back him financially with regards bringing players in, but he would also back him financially by giving him a good contract. That's the one thing Billy Bowie does. He backs his managers on the pitch and off the pitch. If you do well for him, he seems the kind of guy that will go and reward managers. And Derek will back himself. Derek will look at that job and think that's a club in 4th place? I think they are 4th or 5th place. I think they're 4th, Partick Thistle 5th. They're in 4th place, and he's thinking they shouldn't be there. So if you back yourself as a manager, you trust your judgment, you know how well you can deal with players, how you can get the best out of players, and that's all it'll be at this moment in time. It's just trying to give players that little bit of belief and confidence, trying to improve them by 10-15% individually, trying to improve the team then 10-15-20% as a group, and suddenly then things can turn very quickly in football, because they're the big fish in that league, no doubt about it. Partick Thistle, a well supported club. Inverness, a little bit smaller. Arbroath, Dunfermline, who are struggling in the bottom half. So you look at the top 5 teams going for it. Kilmarnock are the biggest out of those top 5 teams. So there's no reason why Derek can't go in, bring in a few recruits just to try and freshen them up. I think they probably need a little bit of pace, a little bit of creativity in their team. Stephen McGinn's playing in midfield, getting on a little bit. Chris Burke, 38, hasn't played as much as what he would like. So I think a few little adjustments here and there just add to it. And you always think with a manager coming in, do you go back to your former club? Do you go back to players who have worked under you, know what you're all about, you know what they're all about? So I can imagine that a few Aberdeen players maybe thinking, well, I'm not playing, I wouldn't mind maybe getting a loan move or getting a little move to try and reinvigorate me again. But certainly, I think Derek McInnes, I would be very surprised at the end of the season if Kilmarnock don't get promoted.
You're right, they are 4th place, just looking at the table there, 38. We'll talk about, if we have time, manager of the season so far, as well as team of the season so far. And I guess Dick Campbell's got to be a contender for that. It's a remarkable job he's done with the part-timers at Gayfield. They lead still the championship by 3 points ahead of Inverness. Then it's Wraith Rovers, as you said. Then it's Kilmarnock and Partick Thistle. They look to be the 5 teams, barring something shocking, that will be competing for both the automatic promotion slot and the playoff places. Other things we'll be talking about in the next hour include the availability again of Kyle Lafferty. He's shot caller, left another club, his Cypriot employers. This time he's back on the market again. He guarantees goals, doesn't he? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about St Johnstone's signing of Tony Gallagher, who has been released effectively by Liverpool. So he was good enough at one stage to sign at Anfield, but he's back in Scottish football with St Johnstone as Callum Davidson looks to plot a way out of relegation for St Johnstone. Harry Clarke, Craigs has seen a fair bit of him this season, on loan from Arsenal at Ross County. Looks like he's going to be on loan from Arsenal at Hibs in the second half of the season. That's the way that one's shaping. Get your thoughts on Tony Watt as well, swapping Motherwell for Dundee United. It's a pre-contract at the moment, but you would imagine there'll be a bit of pressure to get that one through as a deal in January. Could Lee Griffiths be back at Celtic? Could Dundee trigger the clause in that deal that sends him back to his parent club? A push for bigger than 500 crowds when Scottish football resumes, if indeed the restrictions are still in place, and I guess that is a pretty strong likelihood at the moment. And talking about Hibs and Harry Clarke, they've confirmed the Easter Road team that they're interested in Ewan Henderson of Celtic. So that is a deal that might go through in the coming days and weeks as well. But back to the story of Nathan Patterson right at the top of the show. He's completed his move from Rangers to Everton. If you listen to Sky Sports, the deal is worth £16 million. He's signed a 5.5-year contract at Goodison and becomes the club's second signing of the January transfer window after defender Vitaly Mykolenko arrived from Dynamo Kiev. Rangers had rejected 2 bids from Everton in the summer, insisting that their evaluation hadn't been met for Nathan, who's an academy graduate, made his Rangers debut January 2020, but Rafa Benitez came in again with a third bid for Nathan Patterson, and that this time has gone through. He's been speaking to Everton TV. Nathan Patterson, he said, I'm over the moon to sign and looking forward to getting started. And he's actually issued a statement of his own on Instagram. Here it is. It's hard to put into words what Rangers Football Club means to me, but I'll try. The day I made my debut was the best day of my life. The day we won number 55, title number 55, will live with me forever. It took a lot of hard work and dedication to make it this far, and I hope every Rangers supporter knows I gave absolutely everything for the club for the past 13 years. It's incredible. He's been part of Rangers for 13 years. I'm one of you, he says to the Rangers fans, a supporter who was lucky enough to play for the club they love. Thank yous to his family, also to Stephen Gerrard, Stevie Clarke at Scotland, and all the coaches involved as well, as he has made rapid progress, not with a lot of Rangers appearances, you'd have to say, but 6 Scotland caps already. Just the 15 starts for Rangers in the time he's been around the team. 6 appearances this season, and as you said, he finds himself potentially being kept out of the team as he was at Rangers by the captain at Everton, and it's Seamus Coleman in this case, who's 33, but maybe a better chance of getting in the team here, Craigs, because Everton at the moment are losing more than they're winning, and the opposite applied at Rangers. I'm sure it's something that he was dwelling over for quite a long time, of do you move on, do you stay? And I've no doubt that Nathan Patterson, within the next 12 to 18 months, could get up to the figures, or the numbers that the players talk about these days, of what James Tavernier was delivering season on season. But the risk for Rangers was bringing him in now and losing what James Tavernier brings. Because short term, Rangers need to win the title to get automatic entry into the Champions League in the summer. That will have had a big bearing on Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, and I'm sure Stephen Gerrard not putting Nathan Patterson in because he's a project that his form may have fluctuated. Tavernier up, I think, to this season, at this moment, 4 goals and 10 assists. Now that's good for a fullback. Could Nathan Patterson reach that? Eventually he could, but he would have to play quite a number of games until he gets his consistency and get to that.
So Rangers would be losing something from their team, Rob, if they decided to put young Nathan Patterson in just now. As I said, short term, because of the financial rewards of getting into the Champions League, it's absolutely huge for them. So they can't afford to take any risk. They need to make sure they have their best available squad there. So are Rangers weakening what they have by selling Nathan Patterson for that money? No, they're not. They have a squad player, a fringe player, a player with potential. And that's what Everton are banned, potential to go there. Plus it means in this window they can hold on to other assets. Glenn Kamara, Joe Aribo, Connor Goldson, maybe if somebody came in with the bid, Yanis Hadji if someone wanted to come in, Ryan Kent. They can keep hold of these players now. They don't have to sell them on. So it's a win-win for Rangers. Plus it sends out a good message to their academy. You're talking to young academy players now, you're saying, look what Nathan Patterson can do. But for the investment that Rangers have and Celtic have in their academies, and Celtic have done it probably better than Rangers over the years, this can't be a one-off for the Rangers academy. For the money they invest every year at the training centre, at the Rangers training centre, they need every 2 or 3 years to have at least one player that they can go and sell for big money. Plus they need to try and fill their 18, 20 man squad on a match day full of academy players. Like Celtic have probably done a little bit better when you look at Welsh and Ralston, Aidan McGeady, even the far away back, James Forrest, Callum McGregor. These guys have been there for quite a while. So this is what Rangers now will have to aspire to get to. Getting that 12, 14, 16 million pound transfer fee can't be just a case of let's take a foot off the gas, go and drive that home to the other young players and try and push them on to be the next Nathan Patterson.
Does that change things significantly for Rangers, do you think, in this transfer window? And just generally financially, the fact that they've brought in this, well, I think the down payment is 10 or 12 million, so they get that money immediately. We were just hearing as we came on air a suggestion that Watford's interest in Borna Barisic had evaporated. There was talk of a £2 million deal plus add-ons for him. It did look in the summer as if he might be departing Rangers. He's still there, but does the money they get in for Nathan Patterson change things for Rangers as to how they operate financially going into this window? Well,
maybe not hugely, and I'll tell you why, Rob. Because normally if you're selling a player like Nathan Patterson's now the most expensive fee Rangers have ever received for a player, and normally you'd think if that was going to be the case, that the player you're selling would be on a big salary, would be on, say, I don't know, 30k a week for talk's sake. I mean, that's when I figure, I have no idea what players are on. I'm just trying to throw it out there when you hear what people talk about. So you think, right, okay, we can sell a player for 12 million, we get 30k of his wages back. We get that back a week. But Nathan Patterson won't be on anywhere near 30k.
No.
So suddenly Rangers are having to go and play with maybe, I don't know, between 5 and 10 grand a week. That's just, again, I'm plucking out of there. I have no idea. You're not going to get a top international quality player for between £5,000 and £10,000 a week. I wouldn't have thought. So the downside is they're not recouping that big salary. They're getting a big transfer fee for him. So I'd imagine that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst will have 2 or 3 players in his mind of what he's looking for. I think he probably needs an out-and-out right winger, similar to Ryan Kent on the right hand side. He might need a full-back as cover. He might look to bring in a centre half who can play centre half or full back, just because there's been a few injuries in that area. Balogun coming back, Hollander coming back. So I don't think it will have dramatically changed. It will certainly have helped the finances of the club, no doubt about it, because we spoke that quite a while ago that Stuart Robertson was continually saying player trading is huge for the football club. That's what they have to do. And he's reiterated that today with a statement or some quotes that saying this is a start, this is something we will look to do on a regular basis. So it will certainly help. When you looked at the Rangers financials 3-4 months ago, it will certainly help on that front, but it's something they will want to continually try and do once a year. I'd imagine every second transfer window, try and get that kind of fee in just to balance the books, allow them to move forward. And there's no doubt that all eyes, I mentioned it earlier, the Champions League money could be a huge relief for Rangers or Celtic, or bringing in between 30 and 50 million if you go again by different media outlets. So that will be their aim now, is we've got that short-term money in for a player. Now everything has got to be geared towards winning the league. So it may just mean, or it can maybe allow them to go and have a little gamble on a player or two that maybe they hadn't budgeted for.
It's going to be interesting to see what Giovanni Van Bronckhorst does in the transfer window. You'd imagine he's got a long list of talent in the Netherlands that he knows all about, and maybe that's how he's going to tackle the cover for James Tavernier. Maybe it's going to be a young defender from the Netherlands that he chooses to bring in, but it's going to be fascinating as ever during the transfer window. We're only 4 days in, but that big transfer deal has gone through in the course of this afternoon. Nathan Patterson to Everton, and on the day that Kilmarnock landed a replacement finally for Tommy Wright as well, the Championship promotion chasers have landed. Derek McInnes.
The Go Radio Football Show with the Taxi Centre. Save on your new taxi with exclusive discounts across Skoda, Toyota, Ford, Seat and more.
Let's go. Let's go.
Tuesday's Go Radio Football Show. It is Tuesday. Craigs, I'm pretty sure it's Tuesday, is it?
I know.
We've lost all track as you do at this time of year. It is the 4th of January. Good to have you with us on the show with the Taxi Centre. And a couple of big stories have broken in the course of this afternoon. In fact, really in the last couple of hours before we came on air. The confirmation that Nathan Patterson transfer from Rangers to Everton had gone through. And depending on which sources you believe, it's about 10 or 12 million down payment plus 4 million in add-ons, and he will now be competing with the skipper as he was at Rangers. This time it's Seamus Coleman at Everton trying to get that right back berth, and the way things are going for Rafa Benitez at Goodison, it might not take too long to dislodge him and get into that team. And Stevie Clarke will be one who's hoping that he gets more top team action with Scotland's big playoff match coming up in March, and he will be hoping, Craigs, that Patterson sees more game time.
Of course he will, because as an international manager, you want your players playing at the top of their game, playing every week, so that when they arrive for camps for you, and there's huge games coming up against the likes of Ukraine and potentially Wales or Austria after that, then you want your best players playing. You want competition for places. Stephen O'Donnell's playing at Motherwell. Tony Ralston has been in and out at Celtic after his injury, so he wants issues and problems, who he's going to pick. He needs players at the top of the game, and playing in the Premier League would only do Nathan Patterson the world of good. So listen, the deal's done, everything's been going on. We spoke about his potential. The challenge for him is to go and impose himself at Everton, really go and show what he can do. When chances come along, go and get after games, go and show what he can do. They bought him for a reason, because they think he's a good player, so he has to go and deliver that and try and kick it on. So it's an exciting time. When you look at the number of Scottish players based now in the Premier League in England, that's just further enhancing the quality, the optimism, the expectation, the hype around Scotland. It's getting bigger and bigger. 6 wins in a row never happened before. Is that right for the national team?
Yeah.
So, they're in a really good place. And the more players that Steve Clarke can get pushing towards the top end of the game, pushing towards the Premier League, whether it's Ryan Christie getting promotion with Bournemouth, whether it's Nathan Patterson moving to the Premier League, whether it's Andy Robertson maintaining his level, as well as Kieran Tierney, who was excellent at the weekend against Manchester City, then you think, Scotland's got a real chance come those games in March. But, it's a fully fit squad you're looking for.
The other big story that's broken in the last little while, we've spoken about it already, but just in case you weren't with us at the top of the show, Derek McInnes is the new manager of Kilmarnock, looking to get the Ayrshire team out of the Championship and back into the Premiership. And it's one of those stories that just sinks in because it was just confirmed a matter of minutes before we came on air. The more I think about it, Craigs, the more I think that's a real statement of intent. Derek won't have come cheaply for them. They'll have made an investment. It's an 18-month deal initially. You would imagine there's an option to extend that if he can do what he's there to do, and that's win promotion for Kilmarnock. But he's operated at a pretty good level, Derek McInnes, and it does feel as if Kilmarnock are making a big statement today. It
just feels right for some reason. I mean, it will be strange seeing Derek McInnes standing down at Palmerston. I think they're away to Queen of the South in their first game with his Kilmarnock tracksuit on. I always just think it takes a little while to adjust to see a manager standing in a tracksuit you never thought that would
will
be
it be
the
a
case.
tracksuit or will it be an Armani coat?
Well, I'm sure he's been well remunerated at Aberdeen. He may well have an Armani coat. Certainly his gear when he turned up working on TV, Rob, he always looked very smart, and he always drove big motors, so he was getting well paid somewhere. But over the last 9 months, Derek's probably felt a little bit, not unfortunate, probably a little bit frustrated that people haven't came.
I mean, you mentioned Hibs early on, and I have to say, when the Hibs job fell vacant, he was the first name that came to my mind, and he didn't really seem to be quoted. He wasn't in the conversation, was he?
No, he wasn't. And some of the quotes attributed to Ben Kensel, talking about, not talking about Derek, just talking in general about we want a manager who plays attacking football and all this kind of stuff. Ultimately, you need a manager who wins you games. First of all, get your team winning games, and then you can adapt and change your style and move as you go along. So, anyway, that was just a throwaway comment about Ben Kensel. But, over that period of Derek McInnes sitting in his house and thinking, when's my phone ringing, when's the club coming? Probably a little bit frustrated. So he'll be getting into this job wanting to prove a lot of people wrong, wanting to prove people that he can still manage. He's still got what it takes. He's only 50 years of age. He's very young in managerial terms. It's interesting you mentioned Dick Campbell earlier on. I listened to some interviews Dick Campbell done last week with different media outlets, and he was saying he's as good a manager as he's ever been. You get better as you get older. You see things better. You take a back step as opposed to wanting to be at the forefront of everything. You take a step back. You view things differently. You see things. And that's what I mentioned earlier about Derek being out of the game for such as 9 months. You said he'd probably come back, not a different manager, but he'd maybe just have a different outlook on things, Rob. So it's all a learning curve and experience. But I would imagine he'll be desperate to get back on the training pitch and show people that he still is a good manager. Which again, bouncing back, makes it a clever appointment by Billy Bowie.
We've touched on Dick Campbell a couple of times already. Is he the manager of the season so far? If you went through all the leagues, who would be your pick at this stage?
Well, everybody sitting top of the league, you can always go. Kevin Thompson in his first job at Kelty Hearts has done really well. People speak about budgets, but having a good budget doesn't guarantee you success. You still have to go in and manage and pick the right players and get your tactics right. So I think it's very unfair to label that towards Kevin. So he's done well in his first job. Paul Hartley, top of League One, looking like they will eventually go up. They have big ambitions at Cove. Probably the four I would look at would be Ange Postecoglou, Robbie Nielsen, Graham Alexander and Dick Campbell. That's the four for different reasons. Ange gets the plaudits and the highlights because he's managing Celtic. They've won a trophy. People say he took over a really poor team and squad in the summer. He did, but you have to remember it was still full of international players. He's had £20 million plus to go and bring players in, but it again doesn't guarantee anything. But the style of play, the improvement, no doubt about it, he's certainly a candidate. Robbie Nielsen, you think this time last year Hearts fans were unhappy with the style of play. Some were asking him to leave his post. He wasn't the man. Let's get promoted and let's move him on. I think Robbie's evolved even as a manager. I think he's more aggressive in his team selections. He sends his team out and goes attacking, whereas maybe in his younger days he was a bit more reserved, a bit more conservative in his team selection, but he's certainly changed his mindset on that. Hearts are a good watch. Graham Alexander's the one for me because where did you expect Graham to be, or where did you expect Motherwell to be at this stage of the season? Probably bottom half. I certainly watched them pre-season. I thought if they can stay above relegation and consolidate and stay away from trouble, they'll be doing okay. So he's massively overachieved. And when you look at the kind of market he's shopping in, he's been to Shrewsbury for a player, he's been to Tranmere for a player, he's been to Scunthorpe, he's been to Queen of the South for players. He's lost his top goal scorer in Devante Cole in the summer. He's probably going to lose 20 Watt now in January. So I just think Graham's overachieved for what people expect.
I'm just looking at the table, Craigs, backing up what you're saying. Motherwell played 20 games, 31 points, won 9, drawn 4, lost 7, and the teams below them, Hibs, Aberdeen, Dundee United, and then further down obviously to the likes of Dundee and St Johnstone.
St Mirren, I think Jim Goodwin said at the start of the season St Mirren's budget is as big as it's ever been in the top flight.
Yeah.
With that comes the expectation of getting yourself up there. And it's not no doubt that Graham Alexander's budget is probably as competitive as it's been for a while for Motherwell, but it certainly wouldn't be a top 4 budget. So then people talk about what's the criteria, overachieving. People say, Celtic have won a trophy, but Callum Davidson won 2 trophies last year and didn't get any of the Manager of the Year awards. Yeah. Didn't get the PFA or didn't get the Sports Writers. So I'm not belittling Ange Postecoglou, of course I'm not, but I'm just trying to give a different perspective off a way of looking where you pick a Manager of the Year. And if people think it's a little bit biased towards Motherwell because they used to play there, then absolutely it is. I'm not going to disappoint them. No, absolutely. So there's different ways of looking at a manager and how they're doing. I mean, where do people expect Celtic to be at this stage of the season? First or second. Yeah. So that's where they should be, and that's where they are. I just think Motherwell have punched above their weight. Can they maintain it? I mean, 7 wins out of 10 at home at Fir Park. You always talk about clubs wanting their home ground to be a fortress. Well, Graham Alexander's made that. I'm not saying they're the best team in the world to watch, but with the budget he has and the resources he has, I just think he's done very, very well.
You mentioned Tony Watt there. The Motherwell fans will be looking at that league table at the moment and saying he's taken a step back, he's taken a step down. Tony won't see it that way. He's obviously been banging on the door looking for a Scotland squad call-up. He can't have been too far away. I think he's the top goal scorer in the Premiership at the moment. Surprised at all about that move to Tannadice? Well, which is obviously at the end of the season, but probably you would imagine will happen in the course of this month.
Yeah, well, I imagine this month it will depend on what Dundee United come to offer. You know, I know there's been talk of trying to buy him. I don't imagine Dundee United will have the money that Motherwell would accept. They've been talking about a player plus cash. And I can't imagine that Dundee United would want to get rid of any of their players who are in their first 15 or 16. So if you're a squad player at Dundee United, you're not going to move to a team who are 3 places above you in the league and play. So unless they give up, you know, like Fuchs or Charlie Mulgrew, for example, you know, one of their better players, because Tony Watt's probably been Motherwell's best player. I don't imagine Dundee United are going to give up their best player to take Motherwell's best player. So I can't imagine the player swap thing would work. You know, so how Dundee United then work it out numerically, I don't know. But am I surprised Tony's gone to Dundee United? It depends what kind of deal he's been offered. And I'm not even just talking finance, I'm talking longevity. You know, if Motherwell have offered him a 2-year deal and Dundee United have offered him a 3-year deal, I can understand a player wanting to go and take another year. It just means an extra bit of travel from where Tony lives up to St Andrews. You know, you can spend 4 or 5 hours in the car every day. Listen, it's something he obviously wanted to do. You know, he feels as if he's in the peak of his form. This could be his last long contract. When you get to 31, 32, you're not getting a 2 or 3 year deal. So he's maybe just thinking, it suits me. Am I disappointed? Yeah, because he was doing well for Motherwell. But Motherwell over the years have lost players. You've lost David Turnbull, and even years ago when I started playing, James McFadden, they lost players. They always find a way of replacing. They lost Devante Cole in the summer. So that's their business model. Bring them in, make them better, make them feel at home. If they want to stay, they stay. If they don't, they move on. And as a football club, it's not a shock to Motherwell. That's what's always happened. Probably disappointed that he isn't going to see the season out. I'd be very surprised if he does. He's in the form of his life, but good luck to him.
Strikes me that a bit like Derek McInnes, that one seems to me to be better for Kilmarnock than it is for Derek McInnes, but they could prove to be a marriage made in heaven on both sides of that one. And it strikes me that that's probably a better deal for Dundee United than it is for Tony Watt, because they need somebody who guarantees goals. And at the moment, the way he's been going with Motherwell, he does guarantee goals.
Well, he has this season, but if you check Tony's past, and I'm not looking back, but you know, he hasn't always been a regular goal scorer. He hasn't. I think I said it previously. This is the first season where he's getting the double figures as a player. He's 27, so maybe he's just found out. He's found out what it takes, what it needs, where he has to be. He's maybe realised in his head, or the penny's dropped, or Graham Alexander has spoke to him about it. Whatever way it's worked this season for him. So whatever he's done up to this point this season, he has to continue when he goes to Dundee United, whether it's now or whether it's next season. He has to continually put himself in the areas of the pitch that he's been putting himself in. The centre forwards want to do all their work outside the box, you know, but Tony Watt will have now realised actually you could probably get more return if you work inside the box. You work between the width of the goals, you have more shots from distance as opposed to always trying to pass it on to other people. So he's done very well, no doubt about it. He's been excellent. He's been good for Motherwell, but Motherwell's been good for him. Yeah, you know, Stephen brought him in at a time when he wasn't really playing anywhere. He got him going. Graham Alexander, you know, has improved him even further on again. The fact that he's been linked with Scotland, of course, it's down to Tony, but it's down to a club like Motherwell giving you the environment to go and excel. And that's something they've done over the years. And if Tony moves on, they'll have another one coming through, or they'll go and bring someone else in, and you'll just do the same again.
Let's get the first chunk of your team of the season so far, and I don't think we probably need to talk too much about goalkeeper, I would imagine.
Craig Gordon.
That's probably enough,
Craig Gordon,
isn't it?
Yeah, but you think it's Scottish football blessed with good goalkeepers at the minute.
Yeah.
When you think of Joe Hart and Alan McGregor, Xander Clark, Liam Kelly, Benjamin Siegrist, you know, St Mirren fans will say Jack Annick. You know, so I think goalkeepers in Scotland is probably as strong as it could be.
But he's head and shoulders, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. You know, just he's, you know, what is he now, 38? He turned 30. 39.
He was 39 on Hogmanay, yeah.
You know, and he signed a 2.5 year deal. That tells you what Robbie Nielsen and Hearts think of him. That he, you know, some of his saves he's made, I don't know how many times I've watched games. I mean, certainly one springs to mind against Dundee United. At Tynecastle, he had won a double save, I think, against Livingston. Tony Macaroni has saves for Scotland. So, you know, without being unfair on Joe Hart and Alan McGregor, because everybody always looks towards the big two, he's probably been busier. He's had more saves to make, but he is absolutely on top of his game.
They've got 36 points. I just wonder what the points total would be without him.
Yeah.
And that's the definition.
That's the definition.
Of a goalkeeper who is as valuable as a top striker who guarantees goals. So in front of, you're going with a back four. Who are the four in front of Craig Gordon?
I'm going with James Tavernier. I just can't look beyond him. Tony Ralston, people will say, Tony, people will be screaming, hopefully they are, listening to the radio, screaming at the radio, Tony Ralston. I think Tony Ralston's probably been the most improved player this season out of the whole league, the most improved player by far. But I still think James Tavernier's numbers are better. What he brings, assists and goals. I know Tony's got, I think they both got 4 goals each, but the assists of James Tavernier, vital for Rangers. Left back, I went Stephen Kingsley. Again, people will be, everyone at the club has a different opinion. And Juranovic, some people will be saying it, and he can highly into my thoughts. But
Calvin Bassey.
But yeah, well, Calvin Bassey's played left centre half, so and it seems to be he is a left centre half. It seems to be more settled as a centre half. Juranovic has played left back, right midfield, so he hasn't consistently been a left back. So Stephen Kingsley has probably surprised me a little bit, but Hearts have done well defensively. He's got some goals, some good goals from free kicks. Seems to have settled in really well. They're trying to get him on an extended deal, so that tells you again what Robbie thinks. No John Souttar? No, I'm a 2-central defender. I went for Cameron Carter-Vickers. I just think he looks really assured. He's only 24 years of age. There's lots of room for improvement. I know Ange Postecoglou spoke recently about trying to get him. He said we didn't bring him in just for loan. We brought him in with a loan to potentially go and buy him. So I think that would be a real strong move. And beside him, my split opinion, Connor Goldson. I just really like him as a player. I know he's made a few mistakes this season like everybody has, but for me, he was ballsy with his comment after the League Cup semi-final defeat. He put his neck in the line. Yeah, he dug some people out and he may have pointed the fingers at other people, but it's worked. And it takes a brave, experienced defender to come out and do that. And his performances haven't deviated since. I think his performances have got better this season since that, Rob. Rangers have conceded 1 goal in 7 domestic games. He's at the heart of that. He plays all the time. He's strong. He's robust. If he makes an error, he brushes it off and gets on with it. So
I wonder if he's going to stay. I wonder if he's going to extend his stay in Glasgow.
Well, you just wonder if that transfer fee coming in from Nathan Patterson may just help them find an extra few quid to try and throw his way.
Yeah.
Because if Giovanni Van Bronckhorst had any doubts about him coming in and listened to his comments after that game, might have thought, he's not the kind of guy I want in my dressing room, maybe. I don't know. He might have thought, I maybe needed to move him on. But now that he's in work with him, he might think, he's vital to what I need to do. If it means just pushing the boat out a little bit more to get him, to try and appease both parties, then I would imagine that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst would want to do that deal, because I think the number of games he plays and his consistency, Rob, very hard to replace.
Tavernier, Goldson, Carter-Vickers and Kingsley in front of Craig Gordon. What a memory I've got. And the rest of the team coming later on the day that Derek McInnes was installed as manager of Kilmarnock, and on the day that Nathan Patterson made his big money move to Everton.
The Go Radio Football Show with the Taxi Centre. Taxi trade, exclusive savings, no hidden fees. Search for your new taxi today.
Let's go.
Tuesday the 4th of January, the Go Radio Football Show with the Taxi Centre. Even get my taxis and my traffics mixed up. Stephen Craig and Rob McLean here with you till 6 o'clock. It's a truncated version, if I can use that word, of the show at the moment. We will be back to our full 2 hours, 120 minutes when the football resumes, and that is Monday the 17th of January, and we can't wait. Celtic Hibs, I think it is the game that night to get us back underway. And let's hope we do get back underway, and let's hope as well that the restrictions on crowd can be sorted, Craigs, as well, because at the moment it's 500. And we'll just have to wait in the coming days to hear what the government are saying, and whether or not that could be tweaked up the way, and maybe it becomes a percentage, which would be a better way to go, wouldn't it?
I think that's the key. That's all. Football clubs just want to be listened to. They want to try and give their perspective across to the government. So let's hope that can happen. Certainly, when you look at England at the minute, still playing in front of big crowds. I can imagine the data they're looking at and the data the Scottish government are looking at is the exact same. So a lot of people are wanting to know, how come that's allowed to happen and up here in Scotland it's not allowed to happen? So even if there was a higher percentage of capacity of crowd or average crowd or whatever it may be, then I think that would be acceptable to try and increase it then, and be sensible about it. Ultimately it has to be health and safety first and foremost. But let's hope when we start back on Monday the 17th we have more than 500 people at each game.
More to come on that Derek McInnes to Kilmarnock story in a moment. But Gaffer Craigan has picked Craig Gordon in goals, Tavernier, Goldson, Carter-Vickers and Kingsley. He said testing out the old memory banks again. So 6 players to come. Craigs, firstly midfield, who have you got for the best of the season so far?
I went for Kamara, Aribo and Rogic. That's my trio. And I feel a little,
Callum McGregor, which surprises me.
To be honest, I could have went either or. Callum McGregor or Glenn Kamara. I think they're both smashing players. Sometimes when you're picking a team, it just boils down to personal preference of what you like or what you see in a player or what you've liked about him. I just think possibly slightly better defensively maybe than what Callum McGregor is. Both of them, I mean, I wouldn't. It's a toss of a coin, really. both are smashing players. I just think the two ahead of them, Aribo and Rogic, at some stages this season have been at a different level. Their performance levels have been.
They're the two stick-ons, aren't they?
I think they are. I think Aribo has upped his game. Now showing the potential that Steven Gerrard said he had when he brought him in. Tom Rogic is taking his game to a different level because he's got a manager who trusts him. He's got a manager who's picking him every week and saying, go and play. I'm not taking off after an hour. Even if you're having a quiet spell in a game, Tom Rogic gets something up his sleeve. Tom Rogic can go to sleep for 10-15 minutes in the game and then burst in and make something happen. He's just such a clever player. When things are fast and furious around about him, I always think he's ice cool. Sometimes he just stands still. The ball always finds its way to him. Good players always attract the ball. Tom Rogic attracts the ball. So that's my midfield trio.
Front three,
Jota has been excellent prior to his injury. Kyogo, I think, has had as big an impact on Scottish football in such a short space of time as I can remember, Rob. For someone to come in and make people sit up and take notice of such an influential player.
16 goals already.
Yeah. But, it's even more than that. His movement, the energy he brings to Celtic, he initiates the press. So I think he's their best defender from the front, and he's their best attacker when they have possession of the ball. When he's not in the team, Celtic for me are a completely different team. So I'm no surprised he's went and signed Maeda, who's very, very similar, dead pacey. I watched some of his goals this afternoon. Similar movement to Kyogo, so that's certainly going to be a deadly duo. And Martin Boyle have went for.
I saw a stat today that said I think it was over 2021. I think he's over 20 goals for 2021 for a guy that sometimes plays right wing back for Hibs as well. He's been amazing. What
I like about him, even looking at Rangers and Celtic, the one thing they probably lack is an out-and-out winger. I know Abada's 20 years of age, so he's still got improvement to do. And when I'm talking Celtic, James Forrest has been injured, in and out of the team. So a more experienced winger with raw pace is something, could he play for Celtic? Possibly. And Rangers will probably look for a right winger with pace. And you think Martin Boyle ticks that box. So I think he is something that the Old Firm maybe could do with on that side. Plus I think he's been Hibs' go-to man. And the highlight of his year, probably his career up till now, would be that hat-trick in the semi-final against Rangers. Really made people sit up and take notice. But if you watch Martin Boyle often enough, you see continually he's Hibs' biggest threat. So I think that team would win the league, Rob.
Yeah, I think if you stop Martin Boyle, you stop Hibs, it seems, the way things are at the moment. So you've got him on the right side of your attack. You've got Jota on the left side. And the noises seem to be intensifying again about Jota and this loan deal that Celtic would be desperate to turn into a permanent one. 6.5 million is the figure that's been quoted. I think the message today was that Benfica are sort of warming to the idea of Celtic switching this deal from temporary to permanent, and that would be some transfer effectively to go through in January if they can pull it off.
Because I would think, what age is he? 22 years of age. He's worth more than £6.5 million when you watch them playing. When you look at what other players are going for down in England and around Europe for a 22-year-old who's doing well. So there's a chance to further enhance his value if it's not already enhanced already. So financially it makes an incredible sense for Celtic, but also as a player, how influential he is for Celtic, how influential he was before he got injured. Assists and goals and being creative and taking people on, energy, everything you wanted from a winger, he was delivering for Ange Postecoglou. So he seems to have found a place where he's happy. He's found a manager who's happy to put him in the team, and the Celtic fans would be ecstatic. And what a statement of intent that would be at the start of 2022. We keep talking to Rangers looking to go and win the title. For Celtic going to win the title, just that vibrancy amongst the supporters. When they're feeling good anyway, they've won the first trophy of the season. They're signed 3 new players who are coming in, will all add something different. They'll hope to get Alexis David Turnbull and Jota back after the break, as well as Kyogo injury free. So they're looking in a really good place. At 22 years of age, lots of room for improvement. He would be a real game changer for Celtic if they could bring him in on a permanent basis.
That could be a big plus if that happens in the next few weeks. Jota, a permanent Celtic player, maybe Cameron Carter-Vickers in Craig's team of the season so far. Could that deal from Tottenham be turned into a permanent one as well? It was a fairly scary 10 million figure floated initially, but I think that one's come down a bit now. And Craig's also mentioned there the triple Japanese signings of the last few days with Maeda and Gucci. I think he's House of Gucci. I think that's the way he seems to be known, and Hatate as well. The 3 coming in, and the Celtic fans will be so excited. Because clearly Ange Postecoglou knows the market, and they also look at what you've spoken about already, and that is the incredible impact made by Kyogo.
Yeah, well, he's raised the bar for the three of them.
No pressure.
They were probably wishing that Kyogo hadn't had as big an impact. But, having watched again, you watch clips and it's easy to watch clips and make judgment on people. I think a lot of us will reserve judgment to seeing them. But Ange Postecoglou knows how he wants to play. He knows the intensity and the pace and the dynamism he wants in his team. And having watched clips of those three players, they've all got that. They've all got dynamism, they've got energy. Maeda is quicker than Kyogo, from what I've watched so far. He wants to press from the front. He can play as a centre forward. He can play off the left. Very similar to Kyogo, he gets lots of space in the box. He seems to find space in the box. He's good with his head, good with his left foot. Hatate, probably a left back. Could certainly bring cover in that area. Gucci in midfield. Very similar, not similar to David Turnbull and Rogic, but likes to have shots from the edge of the box, likes to get himself involved in play. So, you have to trust the manager's judgment. And if Kyogo is anything to go by, then these three players are going to excite the Celtic fans. They'll certainly get plenty of love from Celtic. That's the one thing that Kyogo has got from the Celtic fans. If you go out and deliver and show appetite and energy and be explosive in games and give everything. Craig Moore said a couple of weeks ago, and he said that Postecoglou likes the work rate and the energy and the hunger of the Japanese players that he witnessed when he was out there. So it completely makes sense. And financially, Rob, it's not a big outlay.
No.
When you look at the money they're spending on some of these players, it's, I don't know what their wages are, but certainly transfer fees aren't anything that you're opening your eyes and thinking, really? Some of them, I think certainly Maeda's been in Europe, and
Ideguchi as well.
Ideguchi was at Leeds. One of them was at Leeds. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was Ideguchi.
It was Ideguchi. I think Maeda was in Portugal. So you talk about different culture. They've been away and they've come back, so they know what it's like to come back in. They're a little bit older and they're a good age again. A good age for improvement. I think
24, 25. I think
Maeda 24, Gucci 25, and Hatate 24. So yet again, to that right age where you can improve them as players, and you can improve their value where they could possibly go on. So it makes business sense all around for Celtic.
The other interesting Celtic tidbit at the moment in terms of rumour machine is that Lee Griffiths could be heading back to Celtic. There seems to be a suggestion that Dundee might trigger a clause in the loan contract, which means that he would return to Celtic and you would imagine go out on loan somewhere else. But that's in the rumour category at the moment. One story that is confirmed today, and we brought it to you right at the top of the show, was Derek McInnes for Kilmarnock. He's the new manager. He's there till the summer of 2023. That's the length of the initial contract. He starts work immediately. Tony Docherty alongside him. And as Craig said, he kicks off with a match this weekend against Queen of the South. He won promotion when he was manager of St Johnstone, going back a fair bit. He had the best part of 8 years at Aberdeen and set the bar really high there in terms of third, fourth place finishes, second place at one point as well, constant qualification for European football. So he brings that sort of track record to Kilmarnock. Billy Bowie at Kilmarnock, who got the deal done, said Derek is one of the most highly respected managers in Scottish football. We're thrilled that he's agreed to join Kilmarnock. From our discussions, it was clear he shared our determination and ambition to bring success to the club, and we look forward to working with him to achieve our goals for the season and beyond. Derek himself said, I'm delighted to be here, well aware of the potential of the club, having played and managed against Kilmarnock over the years. I remember the Tommy Burns era and more recently Stevie Clarke bringing great success and consistency. I know the backing from the fans can make this club special, so for me it's a great opportunity. Coaches Paul Stevenson and Alan Mabry have left Kilmarnock. Details of the backroom staff still to be announced, but I think Tony Docherty is a certainty, and he gets down to work immediately in a really competitive Craig's top end of the Championship.
Yeah, Derek will know it. I think, did he won promotion with St Johnstone?
Yeah, I just mentioned that.
Oh, sorry,
yeah,
did
yeah,
you? Sorry,
yeah.
I was sorry. I was thinking. I was looking at my notes. So he's been there before, Rob. And what I like is, he wasn't letting his ego stand in the way to say, no, I'm not a Championship manager. He thought, no, I'm back myself. I trust myself. I'm going to go and do a job and get Kilmarnock back into the league. So I think, credit to Derek. It would have been easy to sit and wait. But he's thought, no, that's an opportunity for me where I can go and make a difference. So well done him.
One other story, Hibs confirming their interest in Ewan Henderson. Harry Clark, we mentioned that one earlier on. Harry Clark, who was at Ross County, looks like being at Hibs as well. So there are obviously moves being made at the moment by Sean Maloney to change things at Hibs, maybe get players more in the style he's after. Rumours that Alex Gogic could be on the way out there as well. And St Johnstone have signed Tony Gallagher, who I think is 22, a defender, and he's come from Liverpool, so that's going to be an interesting one. And Callum Davidson has to make the moves in the next few weeks that are going to turn things around for the Perth team.
Yeah, and Tony Gallagher's one that, if you're going to attract someone from Liverpool, then fair credit to him. When you mentioned Kyle Lafferty earlier, that was the first club that jumped out at me with St Johnstone. The fact they've scored 11 goals in 20 games and the league tells you they need improvement. So is it worth to go and throw something like Kyle Lafferty for 6 months? Tommy Wright done it. Okay, they got relegated, but he got 13 goals for the club. So if Callum Davidson could add a striker that would get him 13 goals between now and the end of the season, it would give them a much better chance of staying up. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle Lafferty's agent or even Callum Davidson is thinking that's the player we need to get in. They lack goals all over the pitch. So yes, bring in defenders, but they need a little bit of inspiration up front.
Craigs, Happy New Year, and thanks for the last hour. And on the day that Nathan Patterson completed his move from Rangers to Everton, and as we've been saying in the last few minutes, Derek McInnes is the new manager of Kilmarnock. I'll be back with Craig Moore on Thursday. Paul will be back tomorrow with Davy Provan live at 5.
The Go Radio Football Show with the Taxi Centre. Online, on the phone, or at the dealership in Darnley, Glasgow.
Let's go.
Where do taxi drivers go when they need to buy a taxi? Well, the Taxi Centre have supplied cars to the trade for over 20 years, and they stock a huge range of motors from the world's leading manufacturers: Skoda, Kia, Toyota, Mercedes, Nissan, Ford, Hyundai, you name it. They've got saloons, MPVs, estates, minibuses, prestige cars, the lot, all under one roof, ready for immediate collection or free delivery anywhere on the mainland UK. With taxi trade exclusive discounts, flexible finance options and no hidden fees. They even throw in registration and 12 months road tax. So if you're a taxi driver who needs a new or used taxi, where would you go? TheTaxiCentre.com. Trade only.